Hello, my friends, and welcome to a special episode of the Chest of Obscurity. Now, even though today is September 24th, yesterday was the 23rd. And on that day, after 130 years, was the Big N's birthday. And on top of that, well, the Big N has been around since the late 1800s, and it has survived throughout numerous incarnations, as well as what it was before. It really was something, They really did leave luck to heaven. So, in this case, I'm going to play a game that actually befits this because, on top of that, we're also looking at a franchise that too went under 3 incarnations. And the third one actually brought about what we know now as something that most people just tend to forget. And that is this. The Nintendo World Cup! Brought to us by Technos Japan, licensed exclusively to Nintendo back in the day. Now, for those who have never heard of Technos, they're the people who made a series we all know and didn't really much care for, but it was still there. It's called Double Dragon, as well as the aforementioned series that pretty much has been brought to us, but we never knew its actual name. And that's Nekketsu Kouha Kunio-Kun. So, we're going to play this because, see, there you go. See, for those who've never heard of this series, this game actually brought about the name of Kunio and Riki, otherwise known in River City Ransom as Alex and Ryan. So this one is kind of like with Techno World Cup being an English version of Captain Tsubasa. Score, man! Score! Come on now! So, like I said, for people who have never heard of the series of Nekketsu Kouha Kunio-Kun, It technically is one of the most underrated series ever known because, well, it was overshadowed by another series that was also under Technos, that was Double Dragon. Now, what do these two mean? Well, Nintendo never failed to bring about some level of quality to its players. So that's why when it became a video game company, it started with Japan and they called it the Famicom, which is short for the family computer. So technically, in this game, it's one of the many few games that is comically genius because it is basically Kunio-Kun. And Kunio-Kun never fails with the stupidity as far as basically being as all get out outright crazy. I mean, look at these characters. This is Cameroon, and most of them look so soulless. I mean, you look at this game, I mean, we basically just killed one person on the field. Okay, that's two people. But as I said, you know, it's an underrated series that pretty much has been revitalized through Arc System Works, the same people who make Guilty Gear. Who now have the rights to the Kunio-Kun series as well as the Double Dragon series. So as we all know that Nintendo, well, Nintendo never failed to bring about as many titles as it can. And so, with Nintendo being as it is, and many of third-party developers, Capcom, Capcom, Technos, Trade West, guys, what are you doing? That's all I want to know, guys. What are we doing? What are we doing here? I'd be surprised if we actually win off of 1 point. And as I stated before, Kunio-Kun is one of those titles that basically was never known until later. And if you never played a Kunio-Kun game, it's only through River City Ransom or even more. If you never played River City Ransom, you should play the game before that, which is Renegade. Or, as the title was originally called, Nekketsu Kouha Kunio-Kun. Now, the backstory of that is basically Kunio's friend basically is being bullied from another school. They basically beat him up for lunch money or something like that. Kunio comes to save the day and pretty much goes after him, whipping the asses of many. There have been plenty of other games past the first one, but has never been brought over aside from River City Ransom. Or River City Rampage, as the European version was called. There was also the Game Boy Advance version called River City Ransom EX. There has also been Super Nintendo, a Super Famicom release called Shin Nekketsu Kouha Kunio-Kun, which is the new hot-blooded story of Kunio. Or if we were to shorten it down, to be the badass Chronicles of Kunio. Because that's how he was seen. He was seen as this badass that he and his friend Ricky from Hanazono High, basically, nobody could touch him because they were that badass. They were practically, invincible. Which pretty much would say that would be like saying if you were to look at Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, that's who they base him off of, Kunio-Kun. It goes without saying that Nintendo really, if you really want to blame somebody for Kunio being a big influence, it's Nintendo. It's really Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo back in the day, before it was a video game company, that basically, wait, was that, okay, that wasn't the point. Oh, good. Nintendo was first a trading company, then it did soap, and then after that, it went into video games. Again, if I actually beat one if I actually beat one off of 1 point, I'm just gonna be fairly surprised. I'm having too much fun while I'm explaining the history of Nintendo and Kunio-Kun. So, what I found interesting was, come on now. Just go away, please. Thank you. Again, as I said before, if I can actually win off of just one dinky little point. If I win off of one dinky point, that'd be funny. That's all I know. There we go! How to get a goal in the most ass backwards way possible. Just shoot! Kick it! Kick it into the goal, please. Thank you. I mean, Nintendo has been around. But they really hadn't had the real boom until the 80s. I mean, let's be real. When the 80s came about and the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, after the Famicom was a big success, I didn't mean to do that, but shit. I did it anyway, just to kill time. When you pass hard, don't you? I think we won this, guys. I don't know how bad, but we won this. But you know, in all seriousness, when Nintendo's fame rose in the 80s after the Famicom, after Famicom was a big success. Dude, what the hell was that? Then came the Super Famicom. Over here, it was dubbed as the Super Nintendo. And man, let me tell you, when the Super Nintendo came out, oh good lord, it was Super this, Super that, Super Castlevania, Super Soccer, Super Mario World. Super Baseball 2020, even though that was really an SNK title, but still. It's about the same thing with when the N64 came out. 64 had, there was 64 in the title. It's the same thing with the Game Boy Advance. They had Advance in the title. Well, it don't matter. We won anyway. Yeah, we good. Yeah, we go. Oh my God! See that, dude? See that? Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, and I'm not really going to play another match because that's all the game really is. You're just playing soccer in the most ass-backwards way known to man. You're not playing soccer right. You're playing it freely crazy. Nintendo has been around for 130 years. From a humble soap company to a trading card company. And then when they came to the 70s, it burst on the scene. It didn't become great until they started making the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's when everything just came out, especially when they made the action set. Or they made the bundle pack. And everybody remembers the bundle pack. When Rob the Robot came with it, the Zapper light gun, and those little gyros. Basically, Rob was there to do the playing of gyro mice. And Stack Up, if anybody actually remembers Stack Up. I mean, Nintendo really just shot out with a lot of good titles. Whether they were made from Nintendo, the company itself, or third party. Like I said, you had Capcom working with them. You had Tecmo. Sadly, LJM was one of them. Electronic Arts. Before they shortened themselves as EA. I think I mentioned Tecmo. And for what it was worth, let me tell you, it was just fun. You had nothing but fun coming from this one little system. You brought friends over. You had a choice of the pick of the litter when you had a Nintendo back in the day. Oh, you were the life of the party. That made you that gave you instant status. You had a Nintendo. Oh, if you had the action system, oh, you were golden. The sad thing about the action system was the Zapper light gun was never fixed because the calibration was so terrible. You basically had to sit at a certain range in order to be 100% accurate with your shots. And there were some games that just did not work as well as we all hoped. One such title I can remember very well, and I still own it to this very day. The Adventures of Bayou Billy, aka Mad City in Japan. Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt is the infamy of all gamers. Whether you're from the new school or the old school, that damn dog was the bane of everybody's existence. Nobody liked that dog, even in the arcade. The only thing you wanted to shoot was that damn dog. You could do it. You couldn't do it on the home version, but you could do it on the arcade version. It was so satisfying. Nintendo has been around for so long. Like I said, when Nintendo was, came out, you had normal titles. When you had Super Nintendo or the SNES, you had Super. When Game Boy came out, you had Spinach Green. Vomit Green. You basically had simplicity. Because everybody's first game would have been Tetris because it came along with it. It's like, when Nintendo, you had 3 games, or 4 games, depending on which pack you had. If you had Action Pack, you actually had 2, which is Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. if you had the original, you had 3. So you would have Super Mario Brothers. Believe it or not, it would have came with, because that was our flagship game. Then you had Duck Hunt and you had Gyromite. For me, I got Super Mario Bros. Because it's really interesting. I never really got into Nintendo. I really never got into the Nintendo until, like, say, I think when I was around 10. I remember fondly because I had echolania. And the one thing I couldn't do was I couldn't listen well because the sound would basically jar my senses to where it basically like, it just basically just rang in my ear. And it was very, very uncomfortable. So, I would say in order, Super was my first, then Nintendo. Then it was Game Boy. I was never into the 64. And then after that, I really got into the GameCube, and then later on the Wii. I never got into, I never got into anything else other than what I know about the Nintendo. The Switch, I'm not entirely interested in the Switch because it basically is a collection. It's a bundle system. That's what it is. Because it's basically a throwback to the original Nintendo. Because to be honest, it's like this. I have a PS4. I still get anime games. Mainly that's what I have on my PS4. Just like a mixture of Warriors games, RPGs, and anime games. That tells you something. And maybe 1 or 2 FPS games. Maybe 3, depending on if I find a digital copy or not. That's neither here nor there. My thing is, if you have been around with Nintendo since the 80s, you know what's up. Nintendo had its shares of dips, and it has its share of highs. It's basically that one company you really can't say it sucks just because it had a down season. Because Nintendo is probably one of the smartest companies around because they don't show their whole hand. Just like, compared to, say, Microsoft. Microsoft can show 5 games. They can tend to wow the audience. And maybe you might get a meh from a meh from, like, say, 30% of the audience. 70% will be awestruck. Sony, you would get something like 80-20. Nintendo never fails to amaze the audience. I mean, aside from all the dirty stuff they had to do, or they didn't have to really do, but they did it anyway, like the C&D of fan-made games. I can only say, I don't see what's wrong with that. It's like, say, the Metroid 2 remake, AM2R. Really? I've seen that. It has basically made wonders for people who just basically wanted to make an ideal fan game. And a fan game done right. Because you can easily make a fan game but not actually put that much effort into it. It's like a ROM hack. You can easily make as many ROM hacks as you can, but if you don't put like some heart and some actual time and effort into it, it's just basically just another piece of shit. But that's neither here nor there because because Nintendo, whether you like it or you hate it, Nintendo really set the bar for gamers who basically have sat there, played the usual titles like, you know, Donkey Kong, Mario, Zelda, and other picture postcards, to name a few. The flagships. They played the flagship games that made the company the way it is. Why it's so famous. The same can be said about the Kunio series. The Kunio series has not been around, but it's been in the shadows. It's been there all this time, and most people don't realize it ever existed. Because you had games like I said, Renegade, Double Dragon, River City Ransom. There's another one called Downtown Special, which is basically a feudal era version of Kunio-Kun. There's also plenty of sports games. There's Super Dodgeball, which is also a Kunio game. Nintendo World Cup, which you're seeing me play right here. This is also a Kunio game. As I told you on Super Nintendo, not that much as far as that was concerned, because there was the new story of Kunio-Kun. There's one I also did on my channel. Like, the one I did on my channel was Kunio-Kun Tachi no Banka, or the Obituary of Kunio-Kun, or something like that. It has a strange title. And now you have its carry-on sequel, River City Girls, which is on the Switch, the PS4, as well as on Steam. I'm not entirely sure if it's on the Xbox One, but I can tell you, if you never played that game, you should try it for yourself. I've only played a bit of it. I'm honestly considering it as a Let's Play. Should I ever do River City Ransom, I'm going to do the original one, not the new one. Because the new one was kind of... Thank you, Google. Anyway. This video was brought to you by Google. Anyway. But like I said, why am I mentioning Kunio-Kun as well as Nintendo? Because they're two great houses. And the Kunio series has been basically moved from Technos to Atlas, and now to Arc System Works. So you can't be mad at that. You really can't. You cannot be mad of all that is, which is. But with that, my friends, as I said before, whether you love it or hate it, you have to respect that the fact is Nintendo has pretty much been the inspiration of most, if not all, game developers. I mean, they all want to be like Nintendo, or take down Nintendo, or be a worthy competitor for Nintendo. I mean, basically, Sega is the only worthy competitor Nintendo ever had. That's like the Ryu and Ken of company rivalries. Because rivalry like that actually makes the company better, because they can become better. They themselves become better in creating new games, new ideas. But when you don't have that rivalry, it just gets, oh, meh. Without this, we have nothing. Without Sega, we have nothing. But, however, we can have Sega help us make more. A little food for thought, you know. So, Nintendo with its many titles, like Kunio-Kun with its many titles, most have not been said because the list is either short or they have the strangest titles ever known. Even though it was dubbed over here as Crash and the Boys. This is the only game that actually reveals their actual name. You don't see any other game aside from River City Girls that actually states their actual names. Kunio and Ricky. No other games could actually do that. So hopefully you have been served this specialty of wonderment known as the Nintendo World Cup. As this was the Nintendo special, the 130th anniversary of the Big N. So that I have been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi, Ichigo and Musuko. And I'll see you again with more great content. So I hope you've learned something, and have a good one. I'll see you next time.